Hey everyone, welcome back to Quick Fix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a sticky scrolling Lottie animation in Editor X. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I released a post on the channel asking you guys if you guys want to see the challenges that I go through, or if you just want to continue seeing how to do it X, Y, and Z, just straight to the point videos. And actually, a lot of you said you want to see these challenges that I face when trying to create some of these more complicated videos. And this is one of those videos where I just ran into issue after issue after issue. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to show you guys what I did to kind of try to figure it out. Now, I did not test this video before I started recording it because on paper, I just thought it would work. However, that was not the case. So I created this animation, I put it in the Lottie files, I put it through Wix. I made a section that was 300 VH, which means 300% of the user screen. Then I split that into 3 rows. So each row was 100 VH, taking up 100% of the screen. Now, what I was trying to do was have the custom element take up the first row, but set the position type to sticky. So on paper, it should follow you down the screen and animate. However, the problem was the animation was not fluid and I just could not adjust it at all. No matter what I did, I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up turning off sticky position and the animation was fluid, but now it was no longer following us down the screen. The next thing I did try was creating a very tall animation and simulated the scrolling by moving the animation down. Now, I exported a low-res version of this, uploaded it to Wix, and it did exactly what I was wanting it to do. However, it was still low quality and I removed some of the frames, so it was very framey. However, when I tried exporting the high-res version, the JSON file was too large for the Lottie files website to upload. No matter what I tried, I could not get the JSON file smaller without losing the quality of the animation. So at this point, that was kind of like my final straw, basically. I almost basically gave up on this video altogether. However, a small part of me told me, how about you reach out to Matan from I Love Editor X? Maybe he'll have an idea that you didn't really think of. And literally the next morning, I woke up to some new custom code and like a 17-minute video from Matan showing me how to implement this new code. Like, everything that I was trying to do, he did just like this, and I cannot be more thankful to him for this. I don't know when he's posting his version of this video, but regardless, go subscribe to his channel. It will be linked in the description below. It'll be spammed in the description below because this is something that I was really been struggling with, and he was able to like basically help me out immediately. I can't express my gratitude towards him enough. Not even just for this, but just all of the content that he's posting is just mind-blowing. So guys, go show his channel some love, for real. He's a really great guy. But now that I actually know how to do it, let's go all the way back to the beginning and I'll show you how to create the animation. So just so you know, we are going to be creating this animation in After Effects. It doesn't matter really what animation software that you use for this. Just make sure you have some sort of method to export a JSON file, because that's what the Lottie files website needs. But what we're going to do is go ahead and create a composition that basically looks like this. This is a very simple Lottie animation. Sometimes less is more in this instance. You know, something as simple as this will add a really cool effect to your website. But what we're going to do is go ahead and create a new composition in After Effects. And the size that I want to make it is going to be 1920 by 1080. Now, this is actually a video size. However, this aspect ratio is also good for desktop websites as well. So what we're going to do is name this iPhone scroll, and we'll make the duration of this composition about 5 seconds. And then we can just leave the rest as is, and we'll go ahead and press OK. The first thing that I want to do is actually add a white background. So we're going to come over to Layer, New, and we're going to say a solid color. We're going to set this as white, and we'll set the name to be white BG. Once we create that, it's going to be added to our composition. It'll also be added to our project as well. However, I kind of hid this folder, so it's solids right here. So if you ever need this in future compositions in this project, you have your solids right there. And I also want to make a note that I've already imported our assets. So we have our little phone and we have different screenshots as well. So let's go ahead and add our phone here. So we'll go ahead and drag this into our composition. It's going to look like this. Now, if I have this layer selected and I press S, this is going to bring up our scale properties. So what I want to do is maybe lower this down to like 70. I think that looks really good. And we can go ahead and close the phone. The next thing I want to do is grab the screenshot number 1, and I'm going to drag this into our composition, but underneath our phone, but above the white BG. So that's what we're going to have right here. Once again, we're going to press S so we can kind of scale this down to match the phone. We're going to put it right about there. I think that looks fantastic. Now, if I click off of it, you're going to notice that we have these corners right here, but don't worry about that. We'll take care of that in just a second. For now, let's go ahead and grab screen 2, and we'll kind of follow these same exact steps. Perfect. And then last but not least, we'll grab screen 3. Now screen 3 is a little bit smaller, but that's perfectly fine. We just need to bring it to be about this size. Now let's go ahead and take care of those corners that we have, because we don't want the screenshots to kind of go beyond this. So what we're going to do is, with no layer selected, so I just click this blank space. We don't want to have any layer selected. What we're going to do is go ahead and grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to kind of draw a rectangle just like this. And with this shape tool, we want to come over to add. If you don't see that, you can just do this little drop down right here. Go add, and we want to add round corners. So with this round corners here, we can drop this down and we can set our custom radius. Let's do something like 44. I think that looks really good. Fantastic. And now what I want to do is go ahead and duplicate this 3 times. So I'm going to press Command D on my keyboard. So now we have 3 shape layers that look exactly the same. So with shape layer 1, I'm going to move this below screen 1, which is our screenshot 1. For shape layer 2, I'm going to move this under screen 2. And then shape layer 3, we're going to move this under screen 3. So now let's go ahead and grab screen 3. We're going to come over to the track mat, which if you don't see that, you can always toggle this right here. So we're going to come over to track mat and we're going to set this to shape 3. Then we're going to grab screen 2. We want to track mat this to shape layer 2. And last but not least, we want to grab screen 1 and we'll attach this to shape layer 1. So now if I go ahead and click off of everything, you'll notice that we have that nice rounded edge as if the screenshots are in the phone. Now what I want to do is grab all of these layers except for the white BG layer right here, the background. We're going to grab all of these other layers. We're going to right click and we're going to say pre-compose. So basically what we're doing is kind of grouping these all into one composition, and we'll just call this the iPhone. So now we just have this one layer right here. But what I want to do is go ahead and open up this layer, and you'll see that we have all of our layers in here. And what I want to do is kind of split this into 3 sections. So maybe around this 312 mark right here, I want screen 3 to show. So I'm going to grab the shape layer 3 and screen 3, and I'm going to press the left bracket here, and that's going to cut the layer and move it right here. Then we're going to come down to 112. And we're going to grab shape layer 2 and screen 2. And we're going to say the left bracket there as well. So now what we should have is screenshot 1 playing from the beginning. Then around 112, screenshot 2 will appear. And then around 312, screenshot 3 will appear. And that's exactly what we want. So now that we are done with this one, we can go ahead and close out of iPhone. And now we can start editing the iPhone comp inside of here. So what I want to do is press P on the keyboard, and that's going to open up our position properties. And what I want to do first is just kind of move this over to the side, because on the website, we're going to want to have text over here on the right. We just want this graphic over here on the left. And now what I want to do is come to the beginning of the timeline, and we want to kind of rotate this phone. So we're going to grab this layer, and then we're going to press R, and that's going to bring up our rotation properties. So now that we have the rotation here, you can see we can just rotate it however we want. But now we actually need to enable keyframes. So we're going to press this little stopwatch right here, because we want it to look like this at the very beginning. But then if we move our little playhead all the way to the end of the timeline, then maybe we can rotate this ever so slightly. Now, again, we want this to be kind of subtle. We don't want this to be like too dramatic. So I think around like 8 or 9, I think that would look the best. So we have it rotating from nothing to 8 very slowly. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to edit these keyframes a little bit. So I'm going to press this first one over here. We're going to right click and we're going to go to keyframe assist. And I want to press ease out. So what that's going to do is it's going to kind of slowly start the animation. And at the very end, it kind of ends abruptly. So we're going to grab this final keyframe over here, right click, and we're going to say ease in. So now the animation kind of eases into the animation. And then towards the end, it's going to slowly stop instead of abruptly stop. And I think that looks really, really good. So now that we are kind of done with this, now what we kind of need to do is turn this into an image sequence. So what we're going to do is come over to composition and we're going to say add to media encoder. Once it's in media encoder, we want to turn our preset over to JPEG. And then we want to make sure it says JPEG sequence here. Then we can go ahead and export this. Now what I want to do is find a folder to place it in. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this one image sequence. And save and go ahead and press run. Now basically what this is going to do is turn every single frame of this animation into a JPEG image. And once that is done, we can go ahead and head on back over to Editor X. Inside of Editor X, I want to create a new folder. We're going to call this one image sequence. And inside of this, what I want to do is go ahead and grab all of the images that we just exported from Media Encoder. And we're just going to drag them into this folder. Once that is finished and with all of these images selected, what we're going to do is drag them down to make a new composition. So we'll drag them over this composition icon here. And we want to create a new composition with all the images. So it's going to be a single composition. We want each still frame to last for 1 frame. And we want to sequence the layers, but make sure overlap is turned off. And basically what that's going to do is each image is only going to take up 1 frame on our timeline. And this makes it a little bit easier for our plugin to export this into a JSON file. Speaking of, we are going to be using something called body movin. If you do not have this extension installed, what you're going to want to do is go into the Adobe Creative Cloud app. Then we're going to head on over to Stock and Marketplace. We're going to move on over to Plugins. And we're going to just type in movin, but without a G. And literally the second one you see here is body movin. Just make sure you press get and install it. It is a completely free app to use, so don't worry about that. But once it is installed, we can go ahead and exit out and come back over to Editor X. The next thing you'll need to do to make sure that this plugin actually works is come over to After Effects, go to Settings, and come down to Scripting and Expressions, and make sure that Allow Scripts to Write Files and Access Network is checked on. Once that is, we can press OK, and now we can actually export this to a JSON file. So now we can come over to Windows, go to Extensions, and select Body Movin. And this is going to have a list of all of the compositions in our project. Now this one is called iPhone Scroll 000, which is this one right here. So we're going to make sure that this one is turned on. Then we're going to come over into Settings. We need to open up Assets, and we need to include in JSON file. Then we can press Save. Last but not least, we need to come over to this 3 dots here. And we can name this JSON file whatever we want and just save it somewhere. But once you're done with that, you can go ahead and press render up here. Now I have already done this because it does take me a while to render this while recording. It shouldn't take you too long, but while my computer is also recording, it does take a while. But once we have that JSON file done, we can bring that over to our Lottie files. Now you just need to create an account, and you will need to have an upgraded workspace for this to work, but you can go ahead and upload your JSON file here, which I have already done. But once you upload it, you should come to a page that looks like this. And what we want to do is come over to Handoff and Embed and turn this toggle on. That's going to give you access to this link right here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy this link. And I'm also going to go ahead and remember this 151 number right here. This is the amount of frames that is in our Lottie animation. So depending on your Lottie animation, you might have a different number here. So just try to remember that. But now we can head on over to Editor X. Now for this section right here, what I did was I created a section that is 300 VH. So this takes up 300% of your user's screen size. Then I split this into a 1x3 grid. So each one of the rows is actually set to 100 VH. The next thing I want to do is add a custom element to our section. So I'm going to come over to add. We're going to do embed and social. And we want to choose this custom element. We don't want to choose Lottie animation or embed code. We want this custom element. So we'll go ahead and place this in the section in the top grid cell, just right here. And what I want to do with this is set the width to be 100 VW. And I'm going to go ahead and align this to the top left. And then for the height, I want to set this to 100 VH. So now this custom element is taking up the entire section of this grid, which is exactly what we want. And now we can go ahead and click on this, and we want to do a velo file. Now we have not created a velo file yet. So what we need to do is come over to cite the code here. And if you don't see this icon, just make sure you turn dev mode on. But now what we need to do is come over to public and back end. And now that we added this custom element, we should see this little drop down right here. So we're going to press this 3 dots and say new JavaScript file. And I'm going to call this sticky Lottie. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And now we have this JavaScript file right here. Now we don't need all of this code in here. So we'll just go ahead and erase that. And we're actually not going to be using the same code that we have from his current website, because even though we can do it with this code, he kind of explained it that there is a little bit of a more reliable way to do it. And he actually provided the code. So once again, I will have that link in the description if you want to use it. And I'll kind of explain what's different about it. But what we're going to do is bring this over to our sticky Lottie JavaScript file and paste in this code. Now, if I go ahead and make this larger, I will say most of this will look exactly the same. However, he kind of changed this area right here. And you can see that this container is a container selector. And what we need to do is actually grab the section. So if I grab this custom element and choose the section, then I open up this coding panel. You can see I set this to sticky Lottie section. So we could just put sticky Lottie section here, but like he was kind of explaining to me, this isn't the most reliable method to make this work. So what we have here is this dynamic value called container selector, and we need to grab this container selector. So what we can do is go ahead and publish the website. We can come down to the section itself and go to inspect elements, try to find this section right here and try to find the ID. However, there is a way to do it inside the code that will automatically do that for you. So what we're going to do is come over to the page code, and right here what we're going to do is say set timeout. I want to create a function here for it. Inside of this, we want to grab the custom element. So this is called custom element 1. So we're going to say $W. We're going to say custom element 1. Then we're going to say set attribute. And inside of this, we're going to say Lottie sticky trigger element ID. And then we want to have a comma on the outside of this little, I forgot what this thing is called, but it's like above the tab on your keyboard. Then we're going to call the section itself. So what we're going to do is say $W, and we're going to call the sticky Lottie section here. On the outside of that, we're going to say .unique ID. Now you will notice that this is red, but he was kind of telling me that this will still work for you. This is just an API that currently is not registered. I guess that's something that they might release eventually. The editor might not recognize it, even though the code does. I don't know if that makes sense, but you really shouldn't have to worry about that. And then last but not least, what we're going to want to do is come right about here, and then we're going to say comma 100. So we're basically telling the set timeout to wait this long in milliseconds before it runs this code right here. And then if we come over to this Lottie file here, we now just need to set up the Lottie animation. So we want to make sure that we copy this link again. Remember that 151. We're going to come back over to our code here, and we need to come down to this section right here. So we're going to delete one of these because we only need it for this one. And I'm going to go ahead and replace the code, replace the link here. We don't have 300 frames, we have 151. And we don't want the thing to be called flying documents. Let's call it iPhone scroll. So let's go ahead and copy this iPhone scroll here. We'll minimize this, then we'll grab this custom element. We'll choose a source. We want to make sure that this is set to a velo file, which is our sticky Lottie that we created. And for the tag name, we want to paste in that iPhone scroll that we created. Now, the last two things that we need to do is go ahead and set the position type of this custom element from default to sticky. And finally, we want to go to more actions, and I want to arrange this to the back, because since this Lottie animation has a white background, we still want to be able to see the text here. So we'll go ahead and make sure that the Lottie animation is in the background and not in front of the text. So now let's go ahead and publish the website. And if we come back over to the web page and refresh the page, now when we scroll down, we should see our Lottie animation working. And honestly, I really think that this looks so cool, and this was exactly what I was attempting to do. So I can't thank Matan enough for helping me make this work. But that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. Don't forget to also share some love over on the I Love Editor X channel. His content is also really amazing. But thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.